Thank you for joining NMH at 1, where we highlight pertinent news and current affairs, community stories from across Namibia, as well as international headlines.
Here's what to expect in this lunch hour. IPC will not join political race for travel allowance and perks, says Khomas chairperson. Omadhiya Residents demand removal of hazardous dumpsite near households. East African community demands rebels in DRC release child soldiers.
Stay with NMH at 1. Economic news, sports updates, and international headlines coming up, read to you by Glenora Shipura and Ashwin Berry. In today's midday news update, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has slammed multinational corporations for turning the world's ecosystems into playthings for profit and warned failure to correct course would lead to catastrophic results. With our bottomless appetite for unchecked and unequal economic growth, humanity has become a weapon of mass extinction, he said at the ceremonial opening of talks on biodiversity in Montreal on Tuesday. Nearly 200 countries have gathered for the December 7th to 19th UN Biodiversity Conference, with the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. The conference will aim for the adoption of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, a global roadmap for the conservation, protection, restoration, and sustainable management of biodiversity and ecosystems for the next decade. 1 million species are at risk of extinction. 1/3 of all land is severely degraded, and fertile soil is being lost, while pollution and climate change are accelerating and degradation of the oceans.
Leave us a comment on our social media platforms to engage with these stories. Visual news coming up right after this.
AgriMonitor is jou weeklikse landboukundige program wat jou die jongste nuus in die landbouverwante bedryf en onderwerpe wat daaraan gekoppel is bring. Vir enige advertensie of nuusverwante navraag, kontak agrimonitor@synergy.com.na.
Heading into this afternoon's visual news, Fritz Kaufmann, chairperson of the Independent Patriots for Change in Khomas region, said they will not join the race for subsistence and travel allowance and perks while the city dwellers are lavishing in poverty without services delivered by the city. Jemima Beerkus reports.
Now that we stand up for our principles, everybody is asking, how do you feel about it? It's bad. It's absolutely bad. And I'll be quite honest with you. We have to, at the end of the day, let people realize that the municipality is not a personal and private play park. And we need to get it together. And everybody needs to pull on the same string, irrespective of who they represent and what they represent. It is about the people. It is not about individualism. And this is what we are standing up against. This is what we are calling right now. But it's falling on deaf ears at this present moment in time. So hopefully when we get back, there will be a change of attitude and a change of working forward, because our people are suffering. Do they have to suffer now until 2024? Wake up, Namibia. Wake up, Khomas. Wake up. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
So obviously it is not a conducive situation to be in. However, we want to be heard, and what we want to have done is that we need people in committees that understand the work that needs to be done and needs to be delivered. Let us take finance. You need a finance person in finance to understand finances. You need a person that understands the laws, the bylaws that have been put down constitutionally by us as a people to be adhered to. This is what we want. This is what we are asking for. Yes.
Take a load off and tune into another episode of Brave Namibia as we take a look at both ordinary and extraordinary Namibians. Brave Namibia is broadcasted on NTV.
Our next video, residents from Omadhiya on the outskirts of Omadhiya are demanding for the removal or the relocation of the dumpsite, which poses serious health hazards to nearby households. The town mayor, Johannes Ndeutepo, insists that it is a political ploy by IPC. Enzo Amwele reports.
Richard Rowe onkari mo Madiam mikunda chimba tudishe totondino shinde dia mpano muni na mweno kunda shele tapo inetu ningirano to shongo shija kucha tu etaponge oshitoto likale mo katiketu atuli tambula konga nengo na tushipanda nyeshi ninga netu ongaleka o etotondono olinonzi eto dinji na shinene otolindo to papa olaike pi papa olaike mondu dado kunangala modiri obisi ololongo uno na sasi ko uneke shikisha ko shipangelo atu yeke mbailo vali eto tondino tola la japo kalileke mongalo olilipo katiko banai omuna emba pira kuti niti e plastika otadiri imuna etunai imuna na to tasisegenga omuneke tasidura loku kulito ite ikulia asho omuneke plastika diri mepunda tadisi shena shembano kujoisigire konpe ulimonda kunangara ejote anu mbaeli pu ntu datarandi fupana avo kavena ngene balandi fe bali ovastopo kulandi fupana okuna anu bashi ejo direge ke sepamwe monkundo dia ine komi kundashi dia banga.
My name is Lydia Matthias, a resident of Omadhiya village in Omadhiya town, Oshkoto region. So I'm much concerned on the location of the dump site, which causes it has consequences on our health. So, especially the rotten food, when they dump the rotten food in there, so when they burn them, so the smoke gets cascaded in the atmosphere, and this causes breathing problems. So, I'm much concerned on it. So,
what's wrong with the dump site?
Dump site, I understand that the residents are living an unpleasant life because there are a lot of flies and it's causing a health.
After the break, we review pertinent stories from the country's daily newspapers. Stay with NMH at 1.
The My.NA Cars Show provides viewers with the best in-class cars content, engaging interviews, as well as a showcase of the latest cars-related news, products, and services. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact My.NA at synergy.com.na. My.NA Cars, more than just a ride.
Namibian Sun leads us into the newspaper review with former Mines Minister Obed Kanjode saying there was nothing corrupt about how he handpicked C60, previously a sanitation entity, with no experience in a diamond dealing. Now, for $1.5 billion, this contract was to evaluate Namib Desert Diamonds. Now, the controversial deal saw President Hage Geingob report Kanjode and Saki Shangala, then the Attorney General, to the Anti-Corruption Commission for their perceived role in the deal. Although ACC subsequently did not indict Kanjode for corruption, the minister was moved away from the Ministry of Mines and became the Director General of the National Planning Commission, a position he still holds to date. On the paper's page 2, it is reported that former City of Windhoek Councillor Desiree Davis, who represented the Independence Patriots for Change, is suing the party and the City Council for 2.4 million Namibian dollars for loss of income after the party recalled her from a job in 2021. The details of her lawsuit are contained in court papers filed by her legal team last month. The Anti-Corruption Commission had previously cleared Davis of any wrongdoing related to allegations that led to her recall.
The wildfire that started on Wednesday last week at the foot of the Gemsberg was still not contained at a press time yesterday, according to Joachim Kranz. Lightning was the cause of the fire on the farm Corona or Piccadilly. The fire moved up the mountain from the Namib side. Since the grass is wet and green, the fire spread slowly and we didn't even realize it was burning at first. We only noticed the fire in the afternoon when the wind started blowing. We could not get to the flames because the area is inaccessible. The fire moved up the mountain from the west side and then split into two and spread to the south and the northwest. Now, according to the Republicans, page 3, after 2 extremely successful years of the Joyful Hearts project playing Santa for children from disadvantaged backgrounds, this project will reach out to 9 children's homes nationwide for the first time this year. Narian Stadler, the founder and manager of Joyful Hearts, says the project took root when he joined Round Table 34 as a rookie. I walked in as a layman and it was shortly before Christmas. I asked them what we were going to do for the children over Christmas. They said nothing, so I started this project, he says. Now Stadler put his shoulder to the wheel to make the project's first Christmas a success. A total of 50 children received these Christmas gifts packages from Joyful Hearts.
Now, moving on to the Allgemeine Zeitung management plan developed reports on its, this is reported on the lead page of Allgemeine Zeitung. The Desert Lion Conservation Trust project aims to mitigate, if not prevent, human-animal conflicts between humans and desert-adapted lions at Tora Bay with the help of a management plan. The police interrogation, which was tried for weeks in a sidebar because of its admissibility, was read out yesterday in the Windhoek High Court. 2 days later, police found the murder weapon buried in the desert.
Do stay with us for more newspaper review right after the break.
Hallo kijkers en welkom bij nog.
We are back again with another episode of your favorite show.
Scholars, varsity and the youth generation through Zone, Varsity and School News. If you'd like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact Zone at synergy.com.na.
Continuing with the newspaper review, the Namibian reports on its front page that the Minister of Urban and Rural Development, Erastus Uthoni, has lashed out at local authority councillors, accusing them of putting their own interests above their duty to develop their areas. The Grootfontein and Windhoek municipalities, as well as the Karas Regional Council, have been plagued by the political infighting in the last year. SWAPO and Independent Patriots for Change councillors last week walked out of the Windhoek City Council's elections to vote for a new mayor and management committee. Uthoni yesterday expressed his displeasure while addressing stakeholders at a consultation meeting on the national housing policy. Now, the Namibian's page 3 reveals the gruesome confession of Ernst Lichtenstrasser, who stands accused of murdering NIMT Executive Director Erkard Muller and his deputy Heimo Muller. The headshot came automatic. That was an automatic thing. That is where the training kicked in. Lichtenstrasser said he described the 2 police officers at Walvis Bay on 15 May 2019 to them how he killed the 2 top executives a month earlier. Now, he said he used a Mozambican drill method to kill the 2. A police inspector read out a transcript recorded confession before Judge Christy Liebenberg in the Windhoek High Court yesterday, a day after the judge ruled that the confession was admissible as evidence in the trial.
According to the New Era, government is not defending the apartheid regime by opposing activist Ndibulukeni Nuyoma's constitutionality challenge of the Squatters Proclamation Law. This is the view of lawyers roped in to defend government and the Attorney General in the ongoing case. Government Attorney Dennis Khomas said that proclamation serves a legitimate governmental objective of protecting property rights and prohibiting unnecessary land invasions, which could have a serious impact on the country's economy. Now, Independence Patriot for Change Regional Chairperson Fritz Kaufmann has vowed to recall IPC councillors in the city of Windhoek who engage in wasteful expenditure. He said he has seen city councillors going on overseas trips, spending $80,000 in subsistence and travel allowance, while those living in informal settlements. Kaufmann said city councillors should know it is about the people and not about them. He said it is not a secret that the city of Windhoek is in serious financial trouble, but still some councillors travel on meaningless trips just to get thousands in S&T. Now, IPC candidate for the Moses Karua constituency yesterday said that if elected, he will donate half of his salary to the community.
Truly noble. Moving on to the market watch, Namibia's trade deficit improved for the second consecutive month in October 2022. According to the Namibia Statistics Agency, Namibia recorded a trade deficit of 1.7 billion Namibian dollars in October 2022, an improvement when compared to 2.6 billion recorded in September 2022. The trade deficit recorded in September 2022 was also an improvement when compared to 4.1 billion Namibian dollars registered in August 2022. Year to date, Namibia did not record any trade surplus.
Midco's goal is to slaughter 50,000 cattle in the 2023 financial year, while it has slaughtered about 34,000 cattle year to date. Full details to follow in this broadcast as we get into the economic news segment. Do stay with us.
Iranga Talk brings community news in the Oranga region. For news-related or advertising queries, contact Iranga Talk at synergy.com.na. Iranga Talk, our community, your news.
Heading into economic news, Midco's goal is to slaughter 50,000 cattle in the 2023 financial year, while it has slaughtered about 34,000 cattle year to date. The company slaughtered 35,000 cattle during the 2021-22 financial year due to a scarcity of raw material as a result of the impact of the 2019-2020 drought. Our plan is to maintain and maximize our various procurement streams, with much more focus on direct deliveries and private feedlots, with the capacity to supply Midco throughout the year, said Midco's executive of Livestock Procurement and Production, Patrick Liebenberg. Difficult hurdles with regards to uncertainties on the availability of raw materials. Liebenberg said that according to statistics from the Directorate of Veterinary Services, Namibia has approximately 1.2 million head of cattle available south of the veterinary cordon fence. According to Midco, its success is dependent on optimal throughput, which has been challenging for the past 2 years due to the impacts of climate change, such as drought and the intensification of disease outbreaks. The first quarter of 2022 was not a walk in the park for Midco. The institution experienced constraints in container movements due to COVID-19 regulations in key markets. It said that cash conversion therefore took longer and financial obligations could not be fulfilled in time. Producer payments, amongst others, were thus delayed.
In our next story, despite record load shedding, South Africa's economy grew faster than expected in the third quarter, avoiding a recession. The economy grew by 1.6% in 3 months to end September, after shrinking by 0.7% in the second quarter, which was affected by the KwaZulu-Natal floods. Now, a technical recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of a shrinking economy, but despite load shedding during more than half of the days in the second quarter, as well as rocketing interest rates and food and fuel prices, South Africa avoided this by growing in the third quarter. The 1.6% growth rate was much stronger than expected. The median forecast of economies polled by Bloomberg was for growth of 0.4%, Quarterly real GDP, 1.16 trillion rands at constant 2015 prices, is now the highest it's ever been, exceeding the previous peak of 1.15 trillion rands recorded in the fourth quarter of 2018, Stats SA said. Now, 8 of South Africa's 10 industries grew between the second and third quarter, with agriculture, forestry and fishing surging by more than 19%. This was mainly associated with a rise in the production of field crops and horticulture products, Stats SA reported.
Let's head into the economic indicators. Looking at the indicators, the Namibian dollar maintained its value next to the British pound, euro and Chinese yuan, but upped its value next to the US dollar to 17.32 Namibian dollars. Looking at the NSX stock closing prices, MTC, Anirep and other stocks like Capricorn and Lesego maintained their value, whilst First Rand Namibia registered an uptick of 0.1%. The local index closed down 0.02%, while the overall index closed down 0.20%. Looking at commodities, both gold and Brent crude oil closed down 0.45% and 0.11% respectively, whilst copper was up 0.070% and zinc 0.96%.
Now, the East African community demands that rebels in DRC release child soldiers. Stick around to find out more on these and other stories from the African continent right here on NMH at 1.
Active Kids is an initiative under the MyZone brand that aims to provide exciting and easy activities and fun stories. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.na. Active Kids, where we actively invest in your future.
Let's get into our news from across the continent. The release of child soldiers, rehabilitation and care for victims of sexual violence were some of the resolutions made at the third inter-Congolese dialogue on the restoration of peace in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo that ended on Tuesday. In a communique, the East African Community, which led the Nairobi process, said the facilitator, former President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, met with armed groups, civil society and victims of sexual violence. From the meetings, it was agreed that community leaders, DRC government officials, and officials from the EAC must form a committee to facilitate the release of prisoners with no criminal records of atrocities and/or criminal convictions. One of the many grievances in the DRC, where about 140 armed militias operate, is the resource curse, and as such, there was a call for people in areas such as national parks to be part of conservation and sustainable economic activities. Now, DRC President Felix Tshisekedi was asked to engage communities in eco-friendly projects and conservation. In Maniema province, the EAC agreed that Tshisekedi should meet with the local leadership to discuss how the community can be involved in and benefit from the mining industry in the region. Armed groups control a considerable portion of the DRC's natural resources. It was suggested that to avoid flaring of tempers that could degenerate into conflict, rebel leaders should be considered as stakeholders. Now, Tshisekedi has a huge task to hold consultations with the 145 territories in eastern DRC for them to have equal opportunities as the rest of the country.
Now, Kenya plans to abolish boarding schools next year for students up to grade 9, which includes primary and junior secondary schools. Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang told a head teachers conference that parents would have to take their children to day schools. He said the government had made the decision to allow children to be under the care of their parents or guardians. Children from nomadic pastoralist communities will, however, be exempt from the rules. Kenya has about 28% of its primary school children in boarding facilities, he said, noting that the number was relatively high compared with other countries. He said it was the responsibility of parents to take care of their children as first educators, saying we can't outsource parenting to teachers. We need to start socializing ourselves that we need to be with our children, and the only way we shall be with these children is for them to be in a day school environment, he said.
In our next story, President Philip Nyusi yesterday launched Mozambique's new electronic entry visa issuing system, now live at evisa.gov.mz. The new system, called eVisa, should simplify the procedure of obtaining a visa, the head of state said during the opening ceremony of the Coordinating Council of the Ministry of Interior in Maputo. Now, the eVisa system is part of the package of measures announced by the government in August and designed to accelerate the economy, promoting good practices for reducing bureaucracy and contributing to the improvement of the business environment, the president noted. In particular, the head of state hopes that the new visa system will boost the tourism sector. Now, the president called on the National Migration Service to live up to its responsibilities and manage the new platform competently. Now, some people will try to complicate things because this system cuts out corruption, President Nyusi observed, but properly rolled out, it would provide quality service, flexible and always focus on solving and not creating difficulties. Now, the eVisa portal requires registration by the applicant, who enters his or her data and sends the necessary documentation for the type of visa required, tourist, business, humanitarian or other, and then awaits a response.
Stay with us as we head into the international news shortly, starting with China.
Kaap Vol Hoop vertel stories van die Kaap en sy mense, en uit die stories en ervarings deel ons mooi en unieke plekke om te sien en te ervaar. Kaap Vol Hoop gaan waar die Kaapenaars gaan en gaan kuier waar die Kaapenaars kuier. Van die strande tot die wynlande en die sportvelde tot die restaurante. Ons kuier dalk sommer ook in iemand se kombuis vir daai familieresep van ouma. Ons eet die Kaapse tradisionele kosse en drink van sy beste wyne. Kaap Vol Hoop gesels met die gewone Kaapenaar en soms ook met die meer bekendes, maar week vir week vertel ons elkeen sy eie unieke storie op sy unieke manier. Kaap Vol Hoop kyk ook uit vir die Namibiërs in die Kaap. Sommige kom kuier net en sommige maak die Kaap hulle nuwe tuiste. Namibiërs in die Kaap gesels saam met Kaap Vol Hoop en deel self die mooi, die uniek en lekker wat op hul pad kom. En alles is Kaap Vol Hoop, 'n program wat die mooi en die lag na vore wil bring en 'n program waar ons mekaar kan opbou en leer. Daar is hoop. Daar is 'n Kaap Vol Hoop.
Heading into international news, China should change its official name for COVID-19 to reflect the virus's mutation, and patients with light symptoms should be allowed to quarantine at home. A leading authority on traditional Chinese medicine was quoted as saying earlier today. Now, Zhu Xiaohong told the state-run Beijing daily newspaper that the coronavirus Chinese name, which identifies it as a pneumonia-causing disease, should be changed to call it simply an infectious virus. China's approach to COVID, which has emphasized widespread testing and the quarantining of positive cases in specialized facilities, should change from passive detection to active prevention, with recuperation at home for light cases. Gu said the China Association of Chinese Medicine's infectious disease arm, which she heads, had reached a consensus to change how they describe the virus. Her remarks are in line with the recent softening of the tone from China's health experts and state media towards COVID, while authorities have loosened what remains some of the world's toughest COVID curbs.
In our next story, Meta has threatened to remove news content from Facebook in the US. It objects to a new law that would give news organizations greater power to negotiate fees for content shared on Facebook. Now, a similar law passed in Australia led to news on Facebook being briefly suspended last year. Meta claims their platform, in fact, provides increased traffic to struggling news outlets. It says publishers put their content on Facebook because it benefits their bottom line. The legislation, known as the Journalism Competition and Preservation Act, was introduced in Congress by Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar and his By partisan support, it will give publishers and broadcasters greater powers to collectively bargain with social media companies for a longer share of ad revenue. Media companies argue that Meta generates huge sums of money from news articles shared on their platform. Now, local news in particular struggled during the pandemic as Meta made huge profits. However, Meta argues that this narrative is wrong. Instead, it says Meta drives traffic to news sources. Meta spokesperson Antti Stone said if Congress passes an ill-considered journalism bill as part of a national security legislation, we will be forced to consider removing news from our platform altogether.
Very interesting. Well, stay with us as we head into local sports shortly.
Hi Nangula, you look sad.
Hi Peter, I am sad because my parents argued about whether I should spend the weekend at my mom's or dad's place. When I asked them why my views were not considered, they told me it has nothing to do with me as I am too young.
That's a job for your K-pop participation. It can fix that.
My cap of what?
You're right. They're your superpowers. Your cape of participation is your right to participation. It means you have a right to participate in decisions which affect your life. You have a right to an opinion and to tell people your views in a respectful way.
For more information, contact the Children's Advocate Namibia in the Office of the Ombudsman on 061 20 73 111. Send us an SMS on 20401. SMS costs 40 cents. You can also send us a message via our Facebook page. Remember, the services of the Children's Advocate are free of charge.
Let's get into our local sports. Live Fighters Football Club spokesperson Terry Uyamba has lauded the football club for having secured important victories over the past few weeks. The spokesperson has, however, warned against complacency, saying that the club still has room for improvement. The Oshuarongo-based side are currently seated in the third position of the table after a start of mixed results. Now, Uyamba hopes that the team can go into the upcoming break maintaining their position.
Now, Namibia is on 9th position out of 10 when it comes to the medal tally at the ongoing Region 5 Games in Malawi with 10 medals, whereas South Africa leads the log with 49 medals, followed second and third by Eswatini with 5 medals and Lesotho with 7 medals.
It is alleged that Black Africa players went on strike after the club failed to pay their salaries on time. BA's interim chairman, Jimmy Julie, said it was just a misunderstanding and the matter has been resolved. The arrangement made with the previous leadership was that they had to be paid after each game, but we changed that to a payment after more games given the double headers. This is a developing story.
Stay with us as we head into the international sports shortly, starting with World Cup scores. Looking at the World Cup results, Morocco got the best of Spain after a hard-fought victory, but Bono, the goalkeeper, was the hero of the day. Portugal 6-1 against Switzerland, certainly asserting their dominance there. Now, Portugal's Goncalo Ramos scored a hat-trick on his first World Cup start to help his side demolish Switzerland on Tuesday and send them through to the quarterfinals for the first time in 16 years, setting up a clash with Morocco.
England will have to end 56 years of failure against elite opposition in the World Cup knockout stage if they are to end France's reign as champions in Saturday's blockbuster quarterfinal, as it's facing Kylian Mbappe and company wasn't a daunting enough prospect for Gareth Southgate's side. They also have decades of history stocked against them at the Al Bayt Stadium.
Irish rugby great Ronan O'Gara has extended his contract as head coach with European champions La Rochelle until 2027, the French top 14 club confirmed on Tuesday. Former Ireland fly-half O'Gara, 45, had been tipped in recent weeks as a possible successor to England coach Eddie Jones. If you're just joining us, this is NMH at 1 and we'll get into the highlights shortly.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. For news-related or advertising queries, please contact b7@synergy.com.na.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toyvon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact agenda@synergy.com.na. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
You're watching NMH at 1, and if you have just joined us, here are your news highlights. The release of child soldiers, rehabilitation and care for victims of sexual violence were some of the resolutions made at the third inter-Congolese dialogue on the restoration of peace in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo that ended on Tuesday. China should change its official name for COVID-19 to reflect the virus mutation, and patients with light symptoms should be allowed to quarantine at home, a leading authority on traditional Chinese medicine was quoted as saying on Wednesday. Now, under 15 cricket players have been picked for the National School Week. Eagles captain Gerard Erasmus was guest speaker as he shared his thoughts and spoke about opportunities, the importance of setting up a culture and core values, accountability, and understanding your role as a player in the team.
Those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with NMH at 1, catching up on the latest news in Namibia, Africa, and the world, ranging from current affairs, economic news, sports, and international headlines. That's it from us in studio, but don't go anywhere, because up next is Irongo Talk.
Hallo kykers en welkom by nog 'n episode van julle gunsteling en hoogs betroubare aanlyn nuusbron Irongo Talk. Dankie vir julle almal wat gereeld by ons inskakel. Vandag kuier ons vanaf ons studio by Plaza Meer en bring vir julle die nuus, die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik gaan byt. Die Namibia Toerisme Raad bied 'n 2-daagse toerisme simposium onder die tema Reimagining Stronger Together Spirit op Swakopmund aan. Irongo Talk was teenwoordig toe die voorsitter van die Toerisme Raad, Madeleine Gwagases, die deelnemers Dinsdag by die amptelike opening van die simposium wat oor 2 dae plaasvind toegespreek het. Soos gebruiklik is ons kalenderdag eerste op die lys en vandag vier ons Spookasemdag. Sit gerustig en geniet saam met ons. In vandag se nuus, die bestuurskomitee van die munisipaliteit van Walvisbaai het aanbeveel dat die eienaar van Tropicana Latino Cafe en Siga Lounge toestemming kry om die jettypub te huur en dat RT Investment toestemming kry om die kiosk by Langstrand Oord te huur. Die jettypub sal teen 'n maandelikse fooi van $3,333 Namibiese dollar verhuur word vir die tydperk van 1 Desember 2022 tot 31 Januarie 2027. Terwyl die kiosk vir $1,700 Namibiese dollar gehuur sal word. Beide fasiliteite sal verhuur word vir die tydperk van 1 Desember 2022 tot 31 Oktober 2027 met 'n verhoging van 10% per jaar. Die komitee het gesê daar moet kennis geneem word dat om die beskikbaarheid van die dienste gedurende die feesseisoen tot 2022 te verseker, die hoofbestuurder vir gemeenskap en ekonomiese ontwikkeling 'n 1 jaar huurooreenkoms vir beide suksesvolle beheers sal moet goedkeur. Ministeriële goedkeuring moet vir die huurkontrakte verkry word en hierna sal die 1 jaar huurooreenkoms gelyktydig met die 5 jaar ministeriële huurooreenkoms loop. Die kontraktuele ooreenkoms sal streng deur die betrokke departement afgedwing word. Die jettypub en kiosk is sedert dit geopen is op 'n jaarlikse basis gehuur. Vir die laaste 6 jaar vir die tydperk tussen 1 Maart 2015 en Desember 2021 is hierdie fasiliteite aan 'n ene Linus Omadhiya verhuur teen 'n maandelikse bedrag van $1,000 Namibiese vir die kiosk en $1,500 Namibiese vir die jettypub. Die huurkontrakte is egter beëindig weens voortdurende nie betaling van huurgelde en die skuld is vir invordering aan die kredietbeheer en inkomste invorderingsafdeling oorhandig. Na die beëindiging het die raad 'n beroep gedoen op belangstellende aspirant-entrepreneurs om die 2 fasiliteite op 'n 5 jaar huurtydperk te huur. Die bestuurskomitee het daarop gewys dat die jettypub en kiosk 'n uitstekende area vir toerisme en plaaslike vakansiegangers geleë is wat hulle bedryf seisoonaal maak. Die komitee het aangevoer dat vir hierdie besighede om te slaag, is dit belangrik om 'n bemagtigende omgewing te skep wat begin met die tipe huurooreenkoms wat deur die aspirant-entrepreneur onderteken is. Aanvanklik is hierdie fasiliteite op 'n jaarlikse basis aan die huurder gebied. Dit maak dit moeilik vir die huurkontrak om toepaslik te beplan en het baie werk geskep in terme van kontrakbestuur. Teen hierdie agtergrond het die Departement van Gemeenskap en Ekonomiese Ontwikkeling die raad genader om die jaarlikse huurkontrakte te heroorweeg, aangesien dit nie geskik is vir besigheidsgroei en toepaslike belegging nie. In 2021 is daar 'n voorlegging aan die raad gedoen waarin versoek word dat die huurtydperk van 1 jaar tot 'n maksimum van 10 jaar verleng word om voorsiening te maak vir behoorlike besigheidsgroei en toepaslike belegging. Hierdie versoek is daarna goedgekeur en die aanbeveling is om die jettybar en kiosk te huur sal dus goedgekeur word op 'n 5 jaar huurperiode hernuurbaar vir nog 1 termyn. 'n Huurtermyn van 5 jaar vereis egter ministeriële goedkeuring deur die raad se aanbeveling. En nog nuus. Die suksesvolle implementering van die Erongo volhoubare bestuursprojek sal die bou van 'n promenade by Independence Beach in Walvis Bay tesame met die bekendstelling van 'n aanlyn akademie meebring. Die wandelpad sal met 'n aantal geriewe spog soos speelgronde, bankies, buitelug-gimnasiums en beligting wat gerief vir inwoners en besoekers sal bied. Die promenade is deel van die munisipaliteit se stedelike struktuurplan en sal in fases oor die volgende 3 jaar voltooi word. Die openbare betrekkinge en kliëntediensafdeling van die munisipaliteit van Walvis Bay het verduidelik dat een van die aktiwiteite van hierdie projek die stigting van die Erongo Governance Academy sal wees. Die akademie sal aanlyn gebaseer wees en sal optree as 'n inkubasie van idees vir moontlike projekte in die Erongo streek. Onder die leiding van die internasionale kundiges sal deelnemers gehelp word om idees te ontwikkel in projekvoorstelle vir moontlike befondsing. Lede van die beoogde akademie sal kundiges, verteenwoordigers van die akademie en plaaslike owerhede in die Erongo streek insluit. Die projek word mede gefinansier deur die Europese Unie binne die raamwerk van die Europese Kommissie vir Ontwikkeling en Samewerking hierop uit en word gesamentlik deur die munisipaliteit van Cernowak en munisipaliteit van Walvis Bay geïmplementeer, terwyl die ontwikkelingsbeleidsstigting as fasiliteerder sal optree. Goedkeuring is deur die Raad en daarna deur die Ministerie van Stedelike en Landelike Ontwikkeling verleen vir die ondertekening van die koöperatiewe ooreenkoms tussen die munisipaliteit van Walvis Bay en Sherwonak in Pole. Die Irongo Goeie Bestuur projek vir deelnemende stedelike bestuur, veerkragtige, veilige, inklusiewe, multifunksionele openbare ruimtes in Namibia is gestig met die doel om EU se beste praktyke te deel om voorbeeldige munisipale dienste en gevalle studies vir innoverende implementering te verkry, byvoorbeeld slim groen oplossings en universele ontwerp, ten einde beter en inklusiewe besluitnemingsprosesse te verseker. En daarmee kom ons dan aan die einde van vandag se nuusuitsending. Gaan besoek gerus ons webwerf www.irongo.com.na vir meer nuus uit die streek.
The past 2 years have been very challenging. We realize that health is something that we have cumulatively taken for granted. But COVID reminded us that life is beyond work and our careers. We learned that in the process of social distancing and mask wearing, people's physical, mental, and emotional well-being were being affected. Hopefully, with the pandemic waning, although we still must be very mindful of the different variants, particularly as the golden months come, we do not forget the importance of physical, mental, and emotional wellness. We must remain positive and reinvigorate our spirits in unity. Hence, the symposium will focus on the topics re-imaging stronger together spirits. The aim of Namibia Tourism Board in hosting the symposium is firstly to aid the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism in supporting its tourism revival plan. Secondly, it is poised to share the latest ideas and developments from across tourism. It is indeed the platform for cross-sectoral deliberations and recommendations. The symposium speakers carefully selected, apparently through, I don't want to reveal the source, who we believe have a great passion for this industry, will discuss global trends, challenges and opportunities facing tourism. We thank them in the same breath for having availed themselves. Director of Ceremonies, surely to sustain market growth, we need to broaden the range of our tourism products. Apart from the major tourism offerings currently on the market, as we are looking for further diversity in the years ahead, Namibia can offer a whole range of niche tourism opportunities, such as green tourism, cultural heritage products, spa facilities, and agri-tourism. I understand that one of the speakers today will share, obviously, they've started sharing already, but the best is still to come. Will share views on agri-tourism, but for Namibia to remain competitive and leverage on the competitive advantage, it is crucial that tourism stakeholders are empowered with pricing, social media, and digital marketing trends. That social media should have come before. You see now I'm stepping with papers. Hence the selection of these topics for the symposium, as these in our view are vital components at this juncture to spur tourism recovery. As they say, action speaks louder than voices. The symposium aims to offer the various participants an open area for reflection on the concepts, means of implementation, and methods for involving tourism in the tourism product offering stage to gain a better experience. These challenges present a real opportunity to enrich the approaches in the fields of tourism product development by allowing us to confront experiences from different angles about domestic and international travelers. Participants are encouraged to present reflections and to gain practical experiences in various topics on offer. The changes in the way people spend their holidays have put tourism to rethink their marketing and pricing strategies. Furthermore, in the face of a constantly changing tourist demand, competition becomes fierce. This is an invitation not only to review the image of the known destinations and offerings, but also to develop the communication of new tourist territories. Ladies and gentlemen, looking ahead, the picture is rosier, obviously. The future for tourism is looking good, and the opportunity is here for local governments and the tourism sector to work together to maximize the benefits. Let us at this juncture thank the Governor of the Great Erongo region and the Mayor of Swakopmund Municipality for availing themselves to grace the symposium with their half presence, but we accept apologies. I also express our gratitude to our sponsors, FNB Namibia, Aventure Africa Safaris, and Swakopmund Hotel and Entertainment Center. Last but not least, I convey our profound appreciation to Team NTB under the leadership of our capable CEO, Mr. David Naube, having to give birth to the symposium. Certainly, the line of speakers and topics is impressive. I am told that NTB is organizing a similar platform during the first half of 2023 that will explore best practices globally to regulate or to self-regulate the tour guides in Namibia. Whilst homegrown initiatives are welcomed, we must benchmark so that Namibia remain at the forefront of being competitive in the global village. To avoid that we as a country do not over-regulate the industry, the Namibian Tourism Board will continue to work with the industry and interested parties to take forward some of your bright ideas from the symposium. Therefore, I call on the participants to grab this opportunity with both hands, to go back and grow their respective businesses to prosperity. Let this not be the end, but the beginning of good things that will come your way. And I thank you.
And now for your fishing report. Finally, the Big Cop have arrived in numbers. Adri Sagat was the winner for this week in terms of catches landed, but there is more good news. Palkies also gave his first share of Big Cop. Vampy Delport went out this past Sunday and was rewarded with 2 cop, both over 10 kilograms. Nice fish indeed. Now Grumpy says he is super excited by the news of the arrival of the Big Cop. Reports received from Torabai are also good, with lots of cop and galjoen landed this weekend. It seems the warmer weather and the festive spirit are giving the anglers something to smile about. Baklegat and Mile 72 also produce some good fish. The weather is also good with some great days fishing ahead. Full moon is on the 8th of December, so the fish activity will certainly increase this week. For the anglers heading to Palkies, make sure you got your fishing license with you and keep to the restrictions. Fisheries will certainly be visible and check on these. Nothing can dampen the day's excitement like an unwanted find. The crayfish divers are also getting some catches, with some octopus in the mix. Snook, however, still remains elusive. Maybe in a few days that will change. The warmer water also